G'day, my name's Corey. I'm a gaffer from Melbourne, Australia. Today, I have a little BTS video that we shot back in June with production company Two Tractors at Hitmaker Studios. The brief I was given for this job told me that there was going to be a lot of fancy camera moves to give the illusion that when talent walks out of one room, they open a door to a completely different world on the other side. And this would go on and on. My requirement was to create a setup which would allow for multiple different looks, with all those looks to be confirmed. Which you'll see later proved to be a problem with one of the scenes, but for the most part it was fine. A couple things we needed to consider. For budget reasons, we couldn't use the ceiling truss for rigging lights, and there was going to be no back wall on the set build.
Cut. Everyone clear the set. You okay?
Yeah, just a scare. Let's secure the rest.
Okay, now to the BTS. Again, we are in Hitmaker Studios in Port Melbourne. My assistant for the day is Liam Harrington. Once all the gear is unloaded, I go through with Liam everything that needs to be done, and we develop a game plan for the day. For any studio space, I like to use my 8x8 Infinimat as a base to set the room tone. The set was around 3.5 to 4 meters, which is wider than the Infinimat, which is 2.4 meters, thereabouts. So we added a Nova on each side with a softbox. And then underneath, we added a 12x20 half grid to help blend those sources together. First off, we are building a 24-foot triangle truss. This is done by connecting my scaff pipe with truss builders from Modern Studio. It's not as good as regular truss, but it's much more space efficient for my lighting van, meaning that I can always keep my truss builders and scaff in my van at all times. Whereas if I only had truss in there, I'd have to sacrifice some lighting fixtures or some other grip equipment. Once everything is tightened off, we load the truss onto two Avenger Stratosafe 430 stands. These stands are very heavy but very sturdy, and are my go-to stands for anything heavy that's rigged over the top of people's heads. Next, we need to set up the Infinimat. We first lay down a protective sheet on the floor to work from. The inflatable softbox doesn't have a removable diffusion, so getting it dirty would be a huge pain. Once the softbox is laid out on the mat, it's ready for inflation. Once it's inflated, we lay the panels on top of the softbox, making sure it's nice and even, and then we velcro the light to the softbox. I use 1¼ inch pipe to build the 8x frame around the Infinimat. 1½ inch pipe still fits, but very snug, so it takes a lot more time and effort to get it to fit, and the pipe is all connected using couplers. We use a pulley system to safely raise the Infinimat up to the truss. It's possible to do it without a pulley system, but it's awkward and you're straining unnecessarily. The pulley is above our couplers on the truss, so the frame can be pulled up into them smoothly. Then we have a locking pulley on the stand to allow us to lock off the couplers hands-free. Once everything is secured nice and tight, we move on to the Nova panels. We're using barrel clamps with Kupo extenders to mount the Novas. I use the extenders because I want to use the center pipe to allow all the weight to be distributed evenly. While Liam sorts out cable management, I am prepping for the 12x20 grid. With the weight of the rig in mind, I opted just to mount 12-foot curtain rods to C-stand arms. This method isn't perfect because it's hard to keep the diffusion taut, but it's lightweight and it does the job. Now everything is mounted on the truss, we pull the rig into its position. I always like to keep the wing nut that locks the yoke loose, so we can pivot the stand around without creating any tension. The rig is fired up just in time for the DOP's arrival, and as you can see, he is not happy with our performance. For the exterior light coming through the windows, I wanted to put 3 vortexes up there with softboxes, but I needed 2 of those vortexes for the green screen. So instead, I opted for a vortex in the middle with 2 light matte spectrum 4s on either side of it. To do this, we need to create another goalpost for the backlights. As a small-time gaffer, I don't have a huge amount of scaff in my van. And with most of it already up in the air, there's not a lot left for this rig. We make do with 3 8-foot pieces connected together, and to counter the bowing in the middle, we add bags to each end. The stands we're using is a Kupo 483 and an Avenger 6040. I test it by mounting the Vortex, and it's not the worst. Luckily, we're adding 2 Spectrums instead of more V8s. Once everything is mounted and cables are managed, we crank it up and move it into position. Next up, we need to light up the green screen. For this, we just have 2 Vortexes either side on combo stands. On the shoot day, we ended up adding another small lamp behind the goalpost vortex to even out the green screen a bit more. Next, we needed to give the scene a bit of shape with some sunlight coming through the window. Because there was no back wall, therefore no back windows, we had to throw a spotlight on the XT26 to create the illusion of a window being there. I am mounting a Spotlight Max and XT26 to a combo stand. Even though the Spotlight Max is a big improvement from the original Spotlight, it sucks up a lot of light, meaning we need to use a lamp like the XT26 to get enough stop. For the key light, we are shooting a Dyno 1200C into 8x8 half grid. The dyno is mounted onto a StratoSafe 17 and has a little snap grid on its face. As planned, the dyno will be shot into an 8x8 half grid. We're using an Avenger 8x8 foldaway frame for this. They cost a bit of money for what they are, but setting up frames quickly and easily is definitely worth it in the long run. To stop the key light from spraying everywhere, we're adding an 8x grid. Once you put the grid on, there's already structure established, so with the half grid diffusion, you can just put it on by the Velcro straps. Looking at the frame, we noticed we'd need to cover up the Kupo 483 stand from the backlight goalpost. We added some green screen material and lit it up with some carefully positioned Titan tubes so they wouldn't show up in frame. We then put the Dyno 1200 into its position and called it a day. When we fired up the lights in the morning, Red, our talented DOP, suggested we should shoot some 1200 X's through each doorway to give the scene an extra bit of pop. You'll see them in action here, followed by some BTS of the shoot day.
That's what's
I haven't seen anything, but if they say anything about it tomorrow, there's nothing we can do about
No. I think it's better than it was.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1, metronome. Robot.
My head was a part of who I wanted to be. With the hairy pill, I'm back to being me. Now my head's back.
If you're like a sugar performance. Yeah. I think you should. I'm back to being me and go. Like.
It's like I can be anything. The hairy pill makes me wanna just sing.
Beautiful. That's really good. That's awesome. So these are after.
Yep.
That's typically.
We're just going to play back, and then if you're happy with that.
I like that.
I can be anything. The hairy pill makes me wanna sing.
5, 6, 7, 8.
I know I can go on. The hairy pill. I can go on hairy pill.
Nice. And just keep that energy at the end there.
My hair was a part of who I wanted to be. With the hairy pill, I'm back to being me. Now my head's back, I found my voice again.
The hairy pill brought my volume back to 10. With this length, I can be anything. The hairy pill makes me wanna sing. I know I can go on. The hairy pill.
I mentioned at the start of the video that we didn't have confirmation for the background, as the client was going to decide down the track. The issue of doing this is what's happened here. We've lit this to be a night scene and it's ended up, well, not a night scene. But apart from the power window making the cut, I think everything looks really nice and I'm happy with the final result. I'll finish the video by saying thank you to Red and everybody at 2 Tractors for having me on this shoot. Please let me know what you think of the video and what sort of content you'd like to see from a gaffer. Anyway, my name is Corey Clement. Thank you for watching.